Suzanne.
Hi, Kees.
Hi, folks. I'm Kees van der Vleuten, Maastricht University. I have the privilege to interview Suzanne Schut today, and I'm interviewing her about the recent paper that she wrote, a review paper on programmatic assessment. And I'm very curious, Suzanne, to some of the highlights of that. A couple of positive points about programmatic assessment. Could you give me one?
One of the positive points I think is, especially at first glance, is that a lot of papers we used in this review come to the conclusion that programmatic assessment is helpful or sufficient to support robust decision making and can be used for learning. So that's the first, I think, very optimistic message.
That's great. That's great. But there were also some other lessons learned and dilemmas and tensions. Huh?
Yeah. Because when you look in deeper, then you see that all those kinds of conclusions are a fine line between pros and cons. And for example, one of them is the use of multiple data points, which is an argument and a trigger for this improvement of decision making, as well as lowering the stakes, for example, for learners, creating learning opportunities, creating the sufficient stream of continuous information, which is all positive. But then there is the counter side that it can also risk a heavy overload, bureaucratic, time-consuming checkbox activity.
And maybe even trivial activities.
Yep, yeah, because people then start to hunt those types of numbers, right? If the information overload is.
I found it particularly reassuring that the decision-making part of programmatic assessment functions pretty well.
Yeah, and I think there are two reasons, like this the availability of much more various types of information, but also an important point is the committees, like the shared responsibility and the shared decision-making process amongst those decision makers.
Right. But from a theoretical perspective, I would have expected a big tension between low stakes and potentially higher stakes, so that the perception of the low stakes assessment might be, because it may be used in decision making, still becomes a higher stake.
Yeah, we found a lot of the evidence for that learners they come in with these programs with certain types of experiences and mindsets about assessment, and also for teachers as well. Everybody is like used to assessment having a specific function and having a specific call for specific emotions based on last experience, but also based on the way assessment is used in the whole system, right? Students had to have certain types of assessment evidence to enter such a program in the first place, right? So they are focused on assessment in a specific sense.
How do you lower the stakes?
So one of the points we found evidence is that this use of multiple data points and the, how would you say, the waiting for making such a big decision in the end results in students and teachers using that information for progress and more as a process and learning opportunity. But that takes time and experience. So first-time users, new students, first-time teachers in such a program, they are still unsure and they don't trust such a programmatic approach instantly, right? They have to gain this confidence and experience, I think.
Right, okay. One other highlight and then we'll finish.
I think an important lesson is that it requires a shared understanding about the nature and purpose of the things you're doing, which in that sense requires involvement of all stakeholders right from the start. So the start you make the decision to implement programmatic assessment throughout the whole process. So how do you implement it? How do you make those decisions? How do you create a narrative about the desirable outcomes and the process we would like to see? And if you involve all stakeholders from the start and continuously do that, I think there is a great opportunity to find a useful form of implementation for your own practice.
I guess that's an important lesson, because implementation is not easy with programmatic assessment.
No, and especially as it now requires a different belief system around assessment and the function of assessment. And those types of things are hard to change, right?
Some have called it a paradigm shift in thinking about assessment, and that's not an easy task.
No, no, that's true. And I think especially in the context of medical education, where a lot of users are trained in a specific paradigm, where assessment mainly still is perceived as a measurement issue,
Yeah.
instead of a curriculum design and the role of human judgment and subjectivity in that sense, that there is this tension, what people bring to the table and what you want to reach as an outcome here.
We could have another long discussion about this, but
Yeah, there are so many interesting topics, like the interpersonal aspects, the agency problem. But I guess people can read the paper,
exactly.
and we hope to continue this conversation, right?
Exactly. And I hope to finish up that you would like to give the title of the paper.
Where the rubber meets the road, an integrated review of programmatic assessment. It is available open access, so you can find it on your web and your browser, and also on the website of the journal, Perspectives on Medical Education.
Yeah. Also, if you go to my personal homepage at www.ceesvandervleuten.com, you can find the papers on programmatic assessment as well, including this review paper. Well, Suzanne, thanks a lot for sharing your mind.
Well, thanks for your guidance and having this conversation about our study.
Great. Thank you very much.